Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Stocks are powering to new all-time highs today, as we expected they would, despite some what sounds like negative trade headlines, some positive as well, but some negative ones. And Powell getting investigated by the DOJ, that doesn't sound great either. So there is some real headwinds today. Markets are kind of brushing off, and you are seeing stocks excel higher. Seasonally, July is a great month for stocks. It could get a little rockier, though, heading into August. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that seasonal sentiment is important. Stocks tend to be up a lot in July, kind of falter in August, have a bad September, recover October, November, December. That could certainly happen. Now, there is still room for additional upside from here. I think the SPY could soon be in the 650 level before you get a larger kind of correction or consolidation. I don't want to call it a correction because people always think 10%. That's not what I think is in the cards. A maybe 2 to 3% downside move could happen at any moment. Although things like the RSI only being at 71.64 suggest we could see further upside at this point. Now, keep in mind that August 1st deadline of trade deals and tariffs, but also the 50-day notice essentially put on Russia's trading partners that buy Russian oil, and that 100% tariff that could go along with that if the war in Ukraine is not over with. That could be applied to China. That would, again, be another pretty dire issue for markets. I think it's a little too premature, though, to get bearish on that. And that's why I think stocks are kind of brushing it off for now. But it will come back around and be important, you know, like 2 weeks from now, right? People are going to start talking about that a little bit more. So right now, if you have positions you're up a lot on that you're not really too confident in over the next couple of years, like if you don't think a stock's going to double in the next couple of years, I would personally start trimming, but that is your decision. Let me know if you are trimming in your portfolio, if you are adding more here, if you're getting some leverage. Let me know what you are doing down below in the comment section. But we're going to go ahead and jump into your developing headlines on the day today. Keep in mind, stocks, though, look really good. A lot of it, in fairness, is being driven by big tech, okay? The S&P is up 0.56%. IWM, or small caps, is up 0.28%. And you can see stocks like Apple outperforming, Google outperforming a lot, Amazon outperforming, right? Meta outperforming. Nvidia is kind of lagging behind, and Microsoft lagging behind a bit. But there is a lot of big tech that is working today. And I think, again, partially that's just pre-earnings buying, because you know, earnings come out for these guys, most of them, next week. And odds are we're going to have some really good reports. Now, to transition here just for a moment and get into what's going on in the broader markets today, the Indonesia chief economic minister says 19% U.S. tariffs might kick in before August 1st, depending on joint statement. Again, markets are kind of largely brushing this off, though. Some of the trade headlines that are coming out, even some of the Powell headlines that are coming out. S&P is up 0.58% today, hitting a new all-time high. Bessent says on the August 1st deadline that talks are moving along. He says the quality of a deal, not the timing of a deal, is important. Bessent says we're not going to rush. It seems very likely that the August 1st deadline is going to get kicked down the can once again. Bessent says that it does not have to get ugly with the Europeans. Bessent said on the EU that he imagines they would want to negotiate faster. And he says the EU have become more engaged with conversations. Bessent on Japan says our priorities are not internal government, but best deals for the US. Scott Bessent says, I couldn't even tell you what Secretary Yellen's China policy was, aside from consuming beer and mushrooms. I don't know exactly what that means. Bessent on the Wall Street Journal Fed report says at the end of the day, it's Trump's decision on Powell. Bessent on Powell says we need to examine the entire Federal Reserve institution. As you guys know, Jerome Powell is set to give a speech tomorrow. There's some speculation that Jerome Powell could become a little bit more on the dovish side and maybe start to open the door a little bit more for a July rate cut. But obviously, we will have to wait and see. You also get Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index, shipments, and services revenues that come out tomorrow as well as a speech from Fed Bowman. Bessent says he will be at the Fed Monday night. And U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent on firing Powell and the market impact. He says, I'm not going to deal with hypotheticals, but we all know, he even said himself, if Powell were to be fired, like, that would not be great for markets. Markets would probably crash. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent on firing Powell and the market impact says Powell's term ends in May and another position at the Fed opens up in January. So basically whatever happens, like, Powell's going to be out of there soon. Another Fed governor is going to come in, and that could sway how many rate cuts we get, right? That's the argument, is next year Powell's going to be gone, and that means we're going to get a lot more cuts a lot quicker. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent says if we boomerang on August 1st tariffs, higher tariffs could put more pressure on the nation, suggesting again that Powell should probably start reducing rates now. Bessent says he's going to be engaging in China talks in the near future. He says that trade talks with China are in a good place. And Bessent on China says we could discuss their trade with Russia. Bessent says that China is a big purchaser of sanctioned Russia and Iranian oil. So again, that's kind of the speed bump that we could see going ahead, especially into August and early September, is what if those 100% tariffs go into effect on countries that buy Russian oil? That includes China. That's not going to be very constructive for, a trade deal, right? That's going to essentially put a trade embargo on China once again, which would be very destructive for the U.S. economy. Bessent on the Fed says a decrease in rates would unlock the mortgage market. Fed Williams today says tariffs are pushing up inflation, and he expects even higher prices in the coming months. Brazil says we could redirect more than half of what we export to the U.S. to other countries, but that takes time. The India trade team is back in India to deal with the U.S. likely by September or October. So it doesn't sound like that August 1st deadline is going to be met. Bank of America says today no U.S. recession or Fed rate cuts this year. Bank of America expects the U.S. to avoid a recession in 2025 and sees no Fed cuts this year despite markets' hopes. Strong consumer spending and rising goods inflation show continued resilience, the bank says, noting June retail sales beat expectations. Bank of America warns against politically motivated rate cuts, arguing they could de-anchor inflation expectations and increase credit risk. Looking ahead, the bank expects a slight rise in jobless claims, stable housing data, and an 11% drop in durable goods orders on Friday. That's another big data set, is durable goods. They were up over 16% last month. And, where do they come in for? I believe it's the July numbers that we get. It might be June. But we're expecting a large drop for the last month. U.S. leading index month over month came in at negative 0.3%. The forecast was negative 0.3%, and the previous month was negative 0.1%. So a little bit worse economic data this morning. Now, also in big news today, Fed Chair Jerome Powell hit with a criminal referral by House GOP Trump ally. Republican Luna refers Fed Chair Powell to DOJ for perjury, alleges 2 instances of lying under oath. Trump allies push for early removal. Again, that's not a great development for this market. Taiwan says we are to conduct a new round of trade talks with the U.S. this week. The most recent AI investor sentiment survey shows 39.3% of investors are bullish. That fell from the previous week. You also have neutral investors at 21.8%. That is down from 23%. And bearish investors are up from 35.6% to 39.0%. Now, the CNN Fear and Greed Index today is coming in at 75, which is in the barely just an extreme greed. Market momentum is greed. Stock price strength, extreme greed. Stock price breadth, extreme greed. Put and call options, extreme greed. Market volatility is neutral. Safe haven demand in extreme greed, and junk bond demand in extreme greed as well. And if we can go ahead and pull up the percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average, we'll see it's still on the high side. It's at 66.85%, but this is kind of a normal like bull market level that you'd expect. It's not showing markets are overstretched by any, metric. Okay, it looks good, not too good, but not bad either. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Check out that link down below in the description of this video for the best, most, inclusive trading community in the world, a community that is not satisfied with the status quo, that is going out and earning those exceptional returns. Obviously not a financial advisor. Contact a financial advisor if you have any questions. This strategy may not be suited for you if you're not looking for higher risk, higher reward kind of positioning, right? If you have a bunch of money, you're already a multimillionaire, then maybe that strategy is not best for you, right? Maybe if you're about conserving your wealth, that strategy is not about you. But if you're trying to grow your wealth, I think that is, really for those kind of people. Again, not a financial advisor. You may lose money. Nothing is a guarantee. Don't listen to anyone on the internet, and contact a financial advisor if you have any questions. Okay, or before you make an investment, contact one. That is it. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.